Okay guys, I wanted to do a quick and fast tutorial on the first part of this assignment and then exporting as an MP4. I'll update this assignment, but you start off with downloading the attachment and you don't have to import anything. Once it finishes downloading, you just click on the Adobe Animate file. Alright, so for this walk cycle, we want it to be a nested animation, which means that we'll be doing most of the work in this symbol's timeline, and you can tell it's a symbol because of the blue outline, and once I select it, it tells you right here it is a movie clip symbol. So double click on him. If it says scene 1 symbol guy up on your edit bar, you are in the right spot. And the first thing I want you all to do is select your free transform tool, and this little origin point, it can stay in this location for the torso, but for the arms they rotate from up here, so we are going to move these on all of the joints to where they would actually rotate from. The hands I believe are done correctly, so I'm going to leave those alone. I'm going to move the leg up here. Now there is a small ankle shape in between here, but that looks like it's working just fine. If you can't see it, feel free to zoom in. But by default, they should have been placed correctly. If not, you can go ahead and move them to your liking. The pelvis stays the same, and we just have to move the head slightly down. I believe the neck is fine. Yes. I'm gonna zoom out really quick. Once you have all of the joints, origin points moved, we are going to break apart the character and make all of its body parts into separate layers. You do that by box selecting all of him, right clicking on him, and selecting distribute to layers. Now if you hover over the corner until you see this double arrow, you can left click and drag up to see all of your layers now. The newer version of Animate deletes the original layer. In our lab, you might have something still here that says layer 1. You can go ahead and delete that one. Then I'm going to hover over my edit bar and select fit in window just so I could see everything. Okay, layer parenting is next, so I'm just going to select show parenting view here, which is this icon. And now this part of this portion of the layers panel expanded, and you are basically connecting everything to work your way up to the torso. So I'm going to connect the sneaker to the ankle to the lower leg to the thigh to the pelvis, and the pelvis to the torso. And it's the same thing for all the limbs. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to start with this leg right here. This is the sneaker layer here, and I'm going to connect it to this ankle. I just want to make sure it's the right ankle. So I'm going to select, so it's this ankle. So I'm going to left click on the sneaker, drag to the ankle. So left click and drag. And then the ankle is going to go to this lower leg. So left click and hold to drag to leg lower. And I'm assuming this is the right thigh. So perfect. Okay. Leg lower, left click and drag to leg thigh. Leg thigh to the pelvis, which is down here. So left click and drag to pelvis. And now the pelvis we can attach to the torso. You're always working backwards. You're never going to pull the torso parent here and then connect it to things. It's always going to work backwards to the torso. I'm going to do the same for all the other ones. I'm just going to speed run to it. Alright, so as you can see, I have all of the body parts connecting into the torso. So I'm going to minimize this for a bit, fit in window. So now whenever I move my torso, everything else will move with it. Okay, I'm gonna undo that. When I rotate the forearm, everything else will move with it too. Awesome. Okay, so the next thing you do is start creating a walk cycle or a motion cycle. I recommend you do every 5 frames. You should at least hit the 1 second mark or at least 25 mark here. I'll give you a hint. You want to select your first keyframes on all of these layers should be the same as your last, so the looping animation looks more seamless. So I'm just going to double click up here to select all of these. I'm going to right click on one of these here, and I'm going to hit copy frames, come over and double click in this area where it says 25 to select all of these. I could also left click once here, hold shift down on my keyboard, and then left click once here to select everything. Right click and hit paste frames. So now this is the same as this. Okay, so I'm going to create keyframes here by hitting F6, or you can right click, insert keyframe. All right. So now it's up to you which body part you want to start in, but of course you're going to start in the second keyframes here. And all you have to do is click on the body part you want to move. So if I want to start with this one, let's say I want to move it back slightly, maybe, oops, she was so little. Slightly move that down. When you want to move the whole leg, it's best that you select the thigh. So okay. So now all that's done, I'm going to move to my next frames over here, and I can turn on onion skin to see what my previous keyframe was at. So yeah, so I moved this leg back. Now I'm going to move it all the way back. Move this one. Alright, that is too intense a move, so that's better. Okay. Start moving this one forward. Right, so I have something like this. And I'm basically going to go in there, and that's why. Make all of these poses. Alright, so I've gone in there and I've adjusted all these frames. So now start pose, rest, or passing pose. The legs alternated, passing pose again. Might have not timed this one right. So, boom, passing pose. Okay, so this one's probably gonna have to be a passing pose, so clear keyframes. And I'm actually just gonna copy all of these, so copy frames. Frames. So this leg is in the back and it should be coming forward. So I'm going to do it every 5 frames. So paste frames. Okay. Alright, once I have all that done, sorry, you can go ahead and start adding the classic tweens. You can do this one by one if you want. You can select left click here, hold shift, and then left click down here and do create classic tween 2. You're looking for keyframe, arrow, keyframe. If you have any dots, it's just you're missing a keyframe at the start or at the end, but when I play that, that's what it looks like. Good enough for me. Minimize that. Click on scene 1 or this little arrow. And you notice that it won't transfer over to the main timeline. So what we have to do is just make sure that it's long enough for our nested animation to play, and you just come to whatever second mark you want, let's say 3. I'm just going to hit F5. And you won't see it play on your timeline, but if you hit this button up at the top, the test movie, it should generate a preview for you, and it should be moving at this point. Okay, if you wanted to challenge yourself a bit, you can start this guy over here, come to your last keyframe, hit F6, drag it over, I don't know, let's say to about right here. Right click, create classic tween. Now when I hit play, it's going to move across. Okay, again, this is just a sample. You can make him run, you can make him do whatever action you want your character to do. Once you're done, file. Well, make sure you do a file save if you haven't. I'm not, because this is the 3rd time. So export, export video media. By default, everything should be set up correctly. The H.264, make sure that this location right here, click the little folder, find your USB. I'm going to rename this to my last name. So walk cycle, and this is walk cycle 2. Save. You're going to hit export, and media encoder is going to pop up. In our computers, they do take forever, or it does take forever to open up media encoder, so it is normal, but it should pop here that something is rendering. It might ask you for permissions or something. You just hit OK, but you'll get a little message that it's done. Animate will give you a message too that it's successful, and that, there you go. You'll go back to your USB and submit the MP4.